Before we start, if you're looking for the other part of the last chapter, you'll find it for free on my Patreon. I'll have to try to figure out something because I did get striked, hence the no uploads for a little bit. So I don't know what I will do with Diaries of a Madman, but I don't really want to cut away the not safe for work because I feel like it is an important part of the series. I'll figure something out eventually. Until then, this is a band-aid solution. You'll find it for free on my Patreon at no cost to you. Anyways, let's get back into it. Diaries of a Madman. Written by What Must I Do? Chapter 13. I didn't go to school for this. Part 3. So, for the second day in a row, I woke up way too early and in an unfamiliar place. The Naga, it appeared, were the evil type of people in the world known as early risers, and they were all too chipper about it, the sick bastards. The kid that came to wake me up stared in wonder as I popped my fingers, back, neck, and toes and legs. I had him lead to me where the ponies were still sleeping, and then sent him away. Since there wasn't much else to do, I settled down to wait for them to wake up, and ended up falling asleep myself. I awoke with a start when I felt the pony I had apparently taken to using as a pillow shift. For the third time in a row, I woke up in an unfamiliar place. At least this time I woke up on top of Fluttershy, who was just as soft as I joked about a few months ago in Canterlot. She was also pretty warm compared to the chilly cave. I don't remember lying against her, but as tired as I was, it wouldn't be surprising. She was also very awake, and curious as to what was lying on her, as well as why it was doing so.
Oh, hi, Navarone. Was your own bed not warm enough?
Warmer than I'll admit to. Nah. I came by some time ago when I got woken up. No one here was awake, and I guess I put my head down for a minute and accidentally fell asleep. Too much time running on too little sleep, you know? We were the only two awake at the time, so we were whispering to try not to wake up the others. I sat up off her belly so she could breathe easier.
So, what did happen last night?
She asked. It was bad. Terrible. So many. I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell any pony. It's better you don't know. And don't tell Pinkie Pie that either. She would hate to know what I had to do to get her parents free. She nodded sullenly, leaving it alone.
How was the feast, at least?
Wonderful. You wouldn't have liked it, but to me it was like entering Valhalla, minus the mead. Great food, wonderful company, exotic womenfolk, and they know how to tell a good story.
Are you sure you want to go back to Ponyville with us?
Despite all my bluster, I am not a warrior. I feel absolutely terrible about what happened yesterday. I want nothing more to do with battles unless it's necessary. Though I admit the awards were definitely interesting, but the ponies didn't need to know about that, especially not Fluttershy. The rewards besides the sword and knife and striker they let me keep, I mean.
It is good to see you finally revoking your more violent side, even if it might not be permanent.
Don't get too used to it. Remember, to the others, all we're doing is dancing out here. If I come back completely changed, they might think something is up, and that could raise questions Pinkie Pie wouldn't want to have to answer. I'm a good liar. You're not. Besides, I have no desire to ever stop eating meat.
I think you sometimes forget you're not living among humans anymore. And most of our friends would probably be too happy to find you changed, to question how it happened. And if you're as good as a liar as you claim, I don't know why you can't make up some manner of excuse, or claim a sudden realization that I had nothing to do with.
Despite everything, changing is hard. And I don't know if I want to change in the short term only to end up just as I was, with nothing to show for it but a broken promise.
Oh. If you say so.
I just shrugged. My shocking realizations of the night before were fading away, though in the gloom of the cave they still seemed real. I felt changed, but I don't honestly know if it was a tangible change or not. Days later, as I sit writing this, I still find myself wondering. We did a little more in a way of discussion, and settled in to wait for others to awaken. It didn't take overly long, thankfully. Pinkie Pie's family was used to waking up early, as farmers. Even though, they fucking farmed rocks. Not like they had to wake up early to make sure their crop didn't get stolen or wander away. Seriously, how is that even a thing? They were much more used to waking up in a cave than I was, from their long weeks of confinement. The father woke up first, despite his age, and motioned for me to join him outside their little living area. I got off Fluttershy again. Really, she was much better pillow than my cloak, and she didn't seem to mind anyway, and joined him. You seem awfully close to your charges for a mercenary, he said, remarking on my closeness with Fluttershy. I didn't comment. After a moment, he continued. Still, you got us freed, even though we're still here. I don't talk much about it, but I have a small stash of bits saved up for cases like this. It isn't much, but my payment has already been arranged. It is unprofessional to accept more than what was agreed upon. Thank you, but no. Surely there's something more we can do for you. Some way to show our gratitude. Show it by never allowing your family near the site of the Naga camp we raided last night. We left before the fire was put out, so I don't know how much is left, but it would not be a pleasant sight for ponies. For anyone, really. What happened, exactly? Don't ask. And don't let the Naga tell you, and don't go looking. Just accept that it's done. And you might want to stay here a few days while the Naga on our side round up any survivors. Though, I don't imagine there's much fight left in them. I'll leave that up to you. I want nothing more to do with this war. Personally, given the choice, I would have left you last night. But I'm bound by contract to your daughter until she arranges transportation home. You're not really a mercenary, are you? I looked at him, trying to decide how to answer. I suppose I could technically call myself a merc, but in truth that title didn't fit me. I had decided to do what I rarely do. Tell the truth. I'm a friend of theirs, Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy, I mean. I was... Fuck it, I'm not gonna lie. Pinkie Pie kidnapped both of us to help her. We would have agreed to help her if she had asked, but whatever. Here we are. Shit. Fluttershy was brought along more as an excuse for getting me here. My job was supposed to be to sneak into the caves, rescue you, and then bring you back out with the Naga none the wiser. But Fluttershy is a crappy liar, so I ended up working with them instead. The merc title is just what I choose to make it easier to explain to the Naga, and they took that as meaning as a warrior for hire. That does sound like Pinkamena, he muttered. We'll have a talk about that before she leaves again. You know, if you are for hire, I could use some help around the farm. My back isn't what it used to be, and the rocks were never light. No, I said a tad too quickly. I continued slower. You know how women are. They always manage to get into messes, so very often it seems I'm the one that ends up pulling them through. Your daughter and her friends are no different. Not entirely true. In fact, it was pretty close to being patently false. But whatever. It got the desired reaction. He smiled and nodded, dropping the point. I have done some odd things in my short 19 years of life, and I had no desire to add rock farming to the list. But if you aren't a mercenary, that means you aren't getting paid by my daughter. So why can't you accept a token of gratitude? More money, more problems, is what I wanted to say, but he wouldn't have gotten that. So instead I settled with, you need it more than I do. My meals and board are provided for by the crown. Let him make of that what he would. It was technically true. Twilight lived in the library through the grace of Celestia, and I lived with Twilight. And since Twilight was technically an agent of the crown, and it was usually her feeding me, the crown was providing for that as well. Not to say I was a complete freeloader, mind. I did the occasional odd job and whatnot. I also helped with some research. And then there were events like this, where I solved a possible regional interwarfare crisis between two rival extra pony groups, though my methods were not at all the preferred method for something like this. If Twilight had been here, the two groups would have ended up laying down their arms and cooperating peacefully, in brotherhood and harmony, until they remembered what and who they were, and one side or the other conducted their own version of the Krishnaat upon the other. My method wasn't pretty, but it was permanent. You know, I told him, you could move and farm something else, like where there aren't a bunch of carnivorous snake people, and farm something that actually grows, or makes sense. No. I've been here so long now that I wouldn't know what else to do. This farm has been in our family for generations. I couldn't just up and leave. Even though your land is terribly depressing, you risk possible death by Naga, and one of your daughters is 100 miles away. Right. I just shrugged and said, your life. I was saved from further conversation by more stirring from within. The rest of the party was waking up. We returned before our absence was noted. Pinkie Pie was rather happy to see us all in one place, and primed to stay that way for a while. I'm sure that if she had the supplies, she would have thrown a party right then and there. The rest of the family was pleased that they would get to go home soon, blissfully unaware of the cost. Fluttershy, who never much cares to leave her animals in the first place, was looking forward to getting home soon. I found myself agreeing. This place was not good for my mind. All was in order for our departure, so we started to make our way out. We were passing a large chamber just before the entrance to the tunnel that would take us out when I was called aside by the clan leader. He waved the rest of the group forwards and nodded at Pinkie Pie to show I'd catch up.
There is something I'd like to show you, human Navarone,
the leader told me. If I knew them better, I'd make a joke about trouser snakes, but I abstained. Didn't wear pants anyway. I hope you don't plan on keeping me overly long for my employer. She may still need protecting, unless you sent warriors to finish mopping up the remnants of the enemy.
My Naga will watch your family for some time. You need not worry about them.
Then I will see what you have to show me. We went through a side passage that I had barely noticed until then, my quiet cloth-shoed footfalls loudly overrun by his raspy slithering. If they want to kill me, my body would never be found. It was not a comforting realization, especially given the caveat that I gave them the night before about my status as an assassin and not a warrior. I decided to pull out my crossbow and check it over for damages as we went, as a hint of sorts. We talked of strategy and combat on the way through the caverns. There was little lighting. For the most part, the Naga knew their way through the caves, but what little I could see took my breath away. There were a few massive cavities, extending so high up I couldn't see the top. There were a few pitfalls so deep that I couldn't see the bottom, bridged only by narrow constructions of rope and wood, and it took echoes from the bottom minutes to reach us. There was one point where we entered one of those massive cavities where we paused. I looked at the lining and the wall were tombs, in which I assumed great warriors were laid. We spent a few moments of respect, with him telling me the history of a few notable Naga from his clan. I didn't much care, personally, but I was able to respect their history. At that point, I was thinking that was what he had wanted to show me. But then he started moving forward again, and I hesitantly followed. We went through one of the rooms completely lined by massive sapphires, all grown into the wall and engraved with historical scenes. There was a single torch in the room, and that was all it needed. The walls glittered and shone dazzlingly, bathing the entire room in a brilliant blue shade. I could barely see any of the scenes on the wall, but I didn't need to see them to understand their significance. Rarity would have killed to been able to mine that room. She would have been killed as she tried it too. We finally stopped again at a massive, super massive, this place was bigger than any of the rooms that we had went through, possibly combined, pool of water. Inside it were schools of bioluminescent fish dancing merrily through the waves, chasing blind fish that evolved for the perfect darkness of the area. Their lights, mixed with the torches lining some parts of the wall, gave the room a warm, faint glow. From what I could see of the water, it was perfectly clear and completely unsilted. But even the fish and the torches, I couldn't see the bottom of it. I could see a single slant of light illuminating a perfect circle near the middle of the lake, and descending from that was a long rope leading all the way from the ceiling to the water. It was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. If I had lost my eyes afterwards, I don't know if I would have been sad. I had seen the most beautiful thing the world had to offer. What more was there? I saw more Naga around the water, easily surviving above the water and below it. A few of them were surprised to see me there, but upon seeing their war leader, they didn't comment. Some even called greetings, with each raised a hand in response.
Why did you bring me here?
I weakly asked.
A few reasons. One, to show you what you fought for yesterday. What you saw out in the front caverns is where we live when we might need to access the surface easily. Most of our warriors live there full time, and take occasional breaks here to get their scales and gills wet. Their families live there with them. Almost no outsider ever sees this area, as it houses our people. Our innocent people, mind.
I'm glad to know I didn't kill a large group of Naga for just a few souls I saw in the front caverns. That's for sure. I've not been a part of a slaughter like that in a long time.
Another reason is that I would like you to reconsider returning to the ponies. You said yourself that they don't use your full potential. You don't even know how to properly fight. That little toy at your side is good for shooting at animals, but there is no glory in fighting with it. Stay with us and learn how to fight like a Naga.
It was a somewhat tempting offer, honestly. It would give me a chance to escape from Luna, as she would never be able to find me down here. Meat and fish would be easier to find. Their women were inviting, and I was growing a bit weary of living among the ponies. They were all nice, but still found it hard to deal with me. But there were downsides as well. 1, I'm not aquatic. 2, I don't want to live in mostly darkness forever. And 3, I have fucking wings, and this is a cave. There are a few places I could fly, but not many. 4, fighting for glory and honor is stupid and a good way to get you killed early. 5, none of these Naga really seem that scholarly. Discussions with them would most likely devolve into boasts, stories, and war, not logic and debate like I was getting used to. After a long enough wait, I answered.
I am sorry, but my place is with the ponies, at least for now.
They have few ways to solve their problems that involve violence, but with creatures like me. They rarely need violence, but when they do, someone has to be able to do it. Few enough mercs walk their lands, which is probably a good thing. All technically true.
That is the answers I was expecting, but not an answer I am pleased to hear. There is one more thing you could do for my people, if you would be so kind. It isn't something that is hard, but something we cannot do.
Name it, and I will see what I can do.
We need your wings. Naga do not like flyers of any kind. Both fish and snakes do not have many defenses when it comes to birds, and that's translated through us. But sometimes we need them, and ponies rarely show themselves worthy on working with us.
What do you need me to do?
Take several torches and light up our sky.
He waved his arm upwards, showing the empty darkness that ruled above us. There were a few weakly flickering lights above us, what I at first thought were more gemstones, but now I realized that were actually almost dead torches. I wondered what they were hiding up there then. Bring me torches, I said as I started unclasping my cloak. I removed the crossbow and the bolts from my back and unclipped the sword belt from my waist. I shook out and stretched my wings as I waited for the torches. I thought of the rope and asked, "Where does the rope lead? And why can't you use it for more torches?"
The smoke from the torches has to go somewhere. You remember the well behind the farmer's house? That rope is a bucket rope for it. Our warriors can climb up it, but once they get to the ceiling, they can't hold on as well.
And the ponies know about this?
They know that we use the well sometimes. They don't know its significance, though.
Good to know. Then someone finally brought me some torches.
Along the wall, the ceiling are a few sconces. Some are inlaid into the wall. Some are jutting out. Just light a torch in everywhere you can fit one.
The engineer told me. I was given a pack of empty torches and I clipped around my waist and lit one to guide me on my way to light the further ones. It was a long and painful job. As I said before, the chamber was absolutely massive. I had to take several trips to get more torches. I could tell they had been stockpiling them for a while, and invited more climbing and hanging than actually flying, and both my wings and arms were wooden and stiff by the time I was getting done. When I landed for the last time, I barely had enough energy to get me to the air one more time. But this trip was special to me. I took off everything but my pants and leapt into the air. Then I flew several hundred feet into the center of the room and just dove into the pool. I had spent at least half an hour in the cool water, letting my wings soak and recover. The glow from the roof was brilliant, and I could see patterns in the torches and some bits of artwork on the ceiling. Right before I dove into the water, I noticed that I could see all the way to the bottom of the pool. There were a few hundred Naga on the bottom, finally lit up well enough to see well. It was incredibly peaceful, with a gentle lapping of water at the shores barely at the edge of the perceptibility and the unheard sounds of the bustling community below me. I hardly wanted to drag myself out of the pool. But I knew Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy would be worried until I came back. I slowly started paddling towards the shore with my arms. My wings trailed gently behind me. When I finally reached the edge, their clan eater smiled down at me.
As far as I am concerned, you are always welcome here, human. Wings and pony lover be damned. You helped save us from our enemies, and you lit up the world for us. I know you feel the need to return to the ponies, but feel free to come back here whenever you want.
I nodded at his remarks, happy to hear them.
I would lead you back to the surface myself, but I am needed at a council meeting. We military Naga know the threat is extinguished, but politicians always like to blather on.
We clasped hands, and he slid beneath the waves, leaving me with a small group of warriors that weren't with the raiders last night. I would have climbed up on the rope, but there was no way in hell I was strong enough to climb that high. I could fly half the distance, but even then I couldn't climb the rest of the way. As they led me to the surface, they asked for stories the night before. I told a few, exaggerating the effect their own warriors had. Then they started asking stories from my homeland, and I told a few to those. Before I knew it, I was dry and on the surface, cloak wrapped again around me. Most of the warriors in the group had split off the way to the surface, and all but one guide left us when we got outside. The last guide and I slowly made our way to Pinkie Pie's farm, where I found a larger surprise party waiting for me. Not so much a surprise when you know Pinkie Pie, but whatever. We invited the guide to stay, but he took one look at the decorations and politely declined. I wish I could have declined as well, but, you know, Pinkie Pie. I generally pretend to enjoy them for her benefit. There are times I think she's codependent and would go on a self-destructive spiral if she couldn't keep others entertained. It was definitely an interesting contrast to the feast I had with the Naga. I mean, it's like going from an ancient Scandinavian Viking feast missing only mead to a 5-year-old's birthday party. It was a bit of a disappointing swap, and I was really tempted to bring out the alcohol and let everyone take a nice shot. But I managed to restrain myself. After the wounds I dealt with the night before, I only had 1 flask left, and that wouldn't be enough to get a pony buzzed. And while I'm not going to say it, I didn't take a shot or two. Fuck you. The next morning, I woke up with banging at the front door, in an unfamiliar place, yet again. Since it wasn't my house, I didn't even care about the knocking until I heard a scream. Before I even registered what I was hearing, I was already up and out the window with a sword belt in my hand. Since it was so hot, I left the window open, dust be damned. I should mention again, in case I haven't before, I don't know how to use a sword, and other than the pointy end goes into the other person. I glided the ground and had the sword unsheathed and pointed rather harshly into the back of the Naga that was intruding. Friend or foe, I don't care. Drop your sword belt and don't even think about drawing steel. It very, very slowly did as I asked. Pinkie Pie's mother at the front door looked horrified, and the rest of the group were gathering behind her in various states of shock. But the look of horror on the mother's face changed to one of slight compassion as she beheld the look of the Naga's face. I couldn't see it myself, but apparently it was a pitiful mix of fear, sorrow, and resignation. Before I was fully aware of what was happening, she was ushering him inside, through expressions of doubt voiced by the husband. I checked the Naga's sword belt where he dropped it and found the damn thing was actually empty. The sheath was there, but the sword was gone. That didn't cause me to put my blade away, but rather caused me more concern. This was almost most definitely a refugee from the camp. What was he doing here? And how did he get through the centuries I was promised? As I followed the Naga and the mother in, I whispered to Fluttershy, "Go and get my crossbow and bolts. I have a bad feeling." She took a look at my face, audibly gulped, and rushed off to get them. As we marched the prisoner into the kitchen, I took a second to study him. He was smaller than most Naga I had seen, and looked a lot younger. Most of the others had some tattoos or markings to identify them as warriors, but this one had nothing. When we got to the kitchen, I kicked everyone out but the father and mother. Pinkie Pie didn't want to leave, but an executive override from the father was something that even her usual insanity couldn't pierce. When the Naga finally saw me, he turned about as white as possible for a snake-fish thing and sputtered out in aggrieved, "Monster!" If I didn't have a sword on him, he would have attacked me. As it was, I knew he considered impaling himself if it would meant getting his hands on me for even a second. I turned to the mother. "Leave." She did so after a lingering look at her husband. When she had left and we locked the door behind her, I asked, "Why did you come here?" He hissed at me and answered towards the farmer instead.
Asylum. There is nowhere left for me. I was the only survivor after this thing destroyed our camp. Ponies are known for their tolerance. I see now they even tolerate monsters.
Strong words coming from a snake-fish beast, I answered. Enough, the father pronounced. So you want asylum? Why should I give it to you?
My family is dead. My friends are dead. My clan is dead.
The Naga wailed.
There is nothing left for me. I can work here or I can leave and die. The native Naga here will kill me if I leave this building without you by my side. They laughingly sent me here without a weapon. They didn't tell me this was here.
He hissed, with an angry motion in my direction. Probably figured I would kill him and save them the trouble. One last trick to a grieving enemy. After a look from the father, I held my tongue. After that look, though, he got thoughtful.
You can work, you said. Do you know any farming work?
Ultimate punishment, right there. Have your family killed and they get pressed onto a rock farm.
I was a scout. That is why I was away from the camp when it was destroyed. I saw it, though. I saw this monster pouring fire from the heavens on it.
Very calmly, the father said,
If you keep talking badly about my guests, I will throw you out of this house myself. If you want any manner of asylum here, you will have to work for it. That includes respect my word.
I walked over to the farmer and whispered, You sure this is wise?
He's young, Navarone. Have some compassion. Did you learn nothing from this?
I learned that Naga are fucking dangerous. And I give him a chance to respond, walking away. After an intense turn of debate, the farmer decided,
You can stay. If you don't like the work, I will pay for a train ticket for you to go anywhere reasonable.
Not the choice I would have made. I couldn't have trusted my family to something carnivorous, if it was a herbivore. But if it wasn't my call. After a look at my face, the farmer said,
Any pony can change.
Yes, but so few rarely bother to. He couldn't answer that, aside from the vague call to have some faith. When we told the rest, I got responses I expected. Incredulity mixed with acceptance, with a tinge of fear from Fluttershy. The only request the Naga made was to leave as soon as possible, which I was planning on doing so anyway. That farm was depressing as all hell. I don't know how anyone could keep the will to live there. So it was what that we found ourselves on the train home before the day was out.
If anyone asks, I said, these are props.
That was in reference to the sword, knife, and 2 fire starters I had from the Naga.
Of course, and we were dancing all the time,
Pinkie Pie said.
This doesn't feel right. Lying to every pony. They would understand,
Fluttershy said.
It would raise questions I don't want to answer,
I told her. She knew a bit of what I meant from the conversation in the cave, but Pinkie didn't.
What do you mean, Nav? You're a hero!
The path of a hero is strewn with bodies of those slain to prove his mettle.
My heroes always save the ponies in the stories.
Maybe in your stories. In mine, most of the heroes are made from killing more than the enemy than anyone else.
She was having none of it, though. Thankfully, her warnings to us to keep silent about the affairs held to herself, and she stopped her Thanksgiving to me and we arrived back home. When asked how the trip was, we replied with, It was interesting. I kept the other bottle of alcohol just in case. Seriously, how much of that shit was Applejack making? I would like your guys' opinion on how I should do the not safe for work sections for this series. Because like I said before, it's not something I really want to cut out. But I also don't want to lose my channel over it, believe it or not. So, give you guys some ideas in the comments down below. For now, I've just settled with posting the ones I can't do on Patreon. A temporary solution, like I said at the start, so... a little bit of spitballing would help a ton. Who else help a ton are my far too kind and far too nice Patreons. Thank you, my tier 1s, Pony Party Entertainment, Macario, Lord High, Jason, Hyperlink, Jason Lemaster, Balance Kindness, Lost Nebula, 9 Games, Sword Brother Mordred, and Dreamless Portal. My tier 2s, Captain Blue Shadow, Kayak The Animated Ghost, DJ Max 2000, Element the Wolf, 81 Wolf King, Potato 20, Mr. Crazy Deacon, Solar Comet, 212 Trooper, Volkioid, G-Man 121 Garza, Mackenzie McColas, Nocturne, Papa Lena, Redeemer of Dark Souls Eclipse, Sword Brother Mordred, Artie Bryant, Rehoney Dragonwolf, Steel Spark, Saint Gonk, and Styx. A big thank you to my previous Titan tiers, Dark Guardian, Danish Dash, Maverick, and User 1842. A large thank you to my current ones, Biss Eclipse, and Silent Titan. I appreciate you guys' support so freaking much, and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, This has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.